How's it guys, Munash here, and today we are finally on Act 7 Chapter 2.6, and for my first part I went with Debuff Synthesis, Stun and Armor Break. So whenever you place an Armor Break debuff while the defender has a Stun debuff on them, they'll get converted to a Cold Snap debuff, and that can be quite useful on this path because there's also Mixmaster. So if you do the same basic attack in a row, that repeated attack will be evaded, unless of course you're using an evade counter, or the defender is stunned at the time. So usually you can use pretty much any good champ for Mixmaster in general, like you don't actually need an evade counter. But on this part that will be a lot more difficult because there's also Hit Me I Dare You in combination with Armored Assault. Those two nodes work really well together, but to your detriment. So whenever you hit the defender, they'll gain a chitin charge, and at 10 charges they'll be converted into an armor up buff. And with Armored Assault, they'll be completely unblockable while they have an armor up buff. So there's a couple of ways you can deal with the fights on this path, but I think the easiest counter is Dr. Doom with Mr. Fantastic Synergy. That will allow Doom to armor break with his heavy attack. The reason why you have to parry first is because it has to be a stun debuff, so Doom's passive stun with the heavy attack won't work. I mean it works, but it won't apply the Cold Snap debuff. The other nice thing about using Doom is the heavy attack will apply a stagger. So that will nullify all the armor buffs and you won't have to worry about unblockable. So if you have the Mr. Fantastic Synergy, then Doom is pretty much a perfect counter for this path. Even without Mr. Fantastic, he still works pretty well on many of these fights, which you'll see just now because I did use Doom on 2 out of the 6 fights, and I didn't bring Mr. F. Just the fact that he can stagger with his heavy attack makes him a pretty good counter, because then you only have to worry about Mixmaster. And he's not bad for Mixmaster, it's just more difficult to do the usual Doom rotation after the special 3. And also being able to chain a heavy attack to his combo makes it a bit easier. So I first used him on Masacre where I tried to do the usual Doom rotation, which I messed up after the special 3. Then the next fight I used Doom on was Black Widow Deadly Origin, and this time I did not use a special 3, just out between special 1 and special 2, and it went pretty well. And she did not throw a single special attack because of how I was holding block and utilizing reparry. Then another really good option for these fights is Falcon, because once he's locked on, they'll basically have no defensive ability accuracy, which means they can't evade or gain those armor buffs from being struck. He just won't work very well against Old Man Logan because he's got immunity to ability accuracy reduction, and maybe even Emma Frost when she's in Diamond, because she has concussion immunity. That's only if Falcon's lock-on counts as a concussion, but I'm not sure about that. So I only used Falcon on the Hulk Ragnarok, which I think was the quickest fight on this path. Then I used Nick Fury on Emma Frost, which was not a very quick fight. In fact, that one took quite long. That might have been the only fight that took more than 3 minutes. Not even the Gwenmaster boss took that long. But yeah, I mean, it's Nick Fury with the decoy and class disadvantage against a champ who is bleed immune and has some pretty strong armor and resistances half the time. And I also couldn't always end my combos to get the big bleed because she's unblockable, so whenever I would push her to a bar of power, I would have to back off because her special 1 can clip you if you dash back after ending your combo. And of course I couldn't just block because she was also unblockable for 99% of the fight. In fact, the only time she was not unblockable was during the first 20 seconds of the fight. So yeah, I definitely did not make that easy for myself by using Nick Fury. Then I used Professor X for the other 2 fights, Old Man Logan and Elektra. Might not be the easiest champ to use for some of these fights, but it was quite fun. And he counters evade, so it wasn't that bad. So overall for this part, I'd say you need at least either a champ who can counter evade and or someone with really good buff control, or maybe just really easy access to armor break. Then we get to the Gwenmaster boss, and the way it's set up is quite similar to Act 6 Grandmaster. Basically each path you take has a certain link, and basically that'll activate a certain rule for the boss fight. The link on this path is called Juiced, and that is probably the easiest one to have on Gwenmaster. I didn't expect the fight to be that challenging because I mean it's Act 7, so I thought it would be similar to Grandmaster but a little bit easier. So I wasn't expecting a hard fight, but I also didn't expect it to end in less than 3 minutes. I didn't even get to go through half of her phases, she died during the second one, because for the Juiced node the fight works a little bit differently. So usually you would do most of your damage by removing her plot armor, which is kind of like Grandmaster's wounded phase, but with this node, the damage you deal by removing her plot armor is reduced by 100%. So you deal 0 damage by removing plot armor. Instead you gain plus 300% attack rating every 10 seconds. So as the fight progresses, you just keep on hitting harder and harder, and before you know it, you're casually doing 50k mediums, and at that point her health just drops so quickly. So I'm not gonna go into too much detail about how Gwenmaster works, cause I'm a little bit late to the party. There's already like 10,000 videos out there, so I'm just gonna try and summarize it. She has 6 different phases which give us 6 different sets of abilities that are based on 6 different champs of 6 different classes. It starts with Mutant, ends with Tech, and works in order of class advantage. So there will be a timer next to each icon which indicates which phase you're in, and once it ends, her special 2 becomes unlocked. She'll throw the special 2 and you'll take an annoying amount of damage unless you completed the task of that particular phase. Then she will take the special 2 damage instead, and that's usually how you'll deal most of your damage. But with the juiced node, that's not gonna happen, although you can still take damage. So the first phase is the Emma Frost one, where she'll get diamond form and her special 1 will trigger inverted controls. In order to remove her plot armor in this phase, you need to dex her special 1 while she has 4 prowesses, and she gains a prowess by going over 1 bar of power while you have less than 1 bar of power. So you're gonna be baiting a lot of special 1s till eventually she'll have 4 prowesses, but you do need to play pretty aggressively to get it done before the phase ends. The timer is set for 30 seconds, but you can pause it for 3 seconds by either intercepting or punishing her while she's recovering from a special attack, a heavy attack, or a combo ender. When the timer ends, she'll throw a special 2 and then activate the next phase, which is the Killmonger one. So here she gets 60 of those counterpunch charges, and instead of inverted controls like the last one, her special 1 this time will activate Vibranium Armor for 10 seconds. But this one only reflects damage against special attacks, and in order to complete this phase you have to remove all counterpunch charges, so basically you have to hit her 60 times. Then the next phase has to do with Invisible Woman, so you have to take down her force field to remove plot armor. Then the next one has something to do with Doom, where you have to perform different knockdowns to remove her plot armor. Then there's an Arcus phase, an Iron Man phase, and yeah, not gonna go into too much depth. You can just read them in a description, but if you play this fight right with a strong champ, you might not even get to those phases, cause I took her down during the Killmonger phase, so I only got to experience 2 out of the 6. And this fight can be done with any champ, although some champs will be better than others of course. Like Professor X is pretty good for the first phase because he is immune to inverted controls. So if you really struggle with that, just use Professor X or Mr. Sinister or Emma Frost with Mysterio, just to have a much easier time in that first phase, which could actually be half of the fight. So yeah, that's gonna be it for this one. Hope you guys found it useful. Maybe I'll carry on making these part videos if people are still interested, because I have been enjoying the content so far. So yeah, thanks for watching, have a wonderful day, and I'll see you soon. Oh, and I almost forgot to mention that almost all these fights were done without sound. I turned off my game sound yesterday because I wanted to listen to something else while playing, and I forgot to turn it back on because usually when I'm playing very casually, my device will be muted even though the sound is on. So I just didn't notice until I got to the boss, and then I turned it back on, so yeah, sorry about that. Might not be a big deal, but it did annoy me a little bit. The video might feel a little bit empty until you get to the Gwenmaster fight. But anyway, I gotta stop talking. I wanted to get this video out hours ago, so yeah, cheers.
fear our fight has only begun.